What's up, everybody? It's Dante, aka the Forensics Guy, and you are listening to the Forensics Experience, the only podcast on the internet where we get to indulge on the wisdom of the most inspiring forensics coaches and alumni within the community. Today, I have an amazing coach here today with us. Her name is Amy Geyser. So, Amy, for the probably three people that don't know who you are, give us a bit of insight into who you are and what you do for the community.
Thank you for that introduction. You flattered me, really. I am currently the forensics coach at Marquette University High School in Milwaukee. I am about to embark on my 9th season as a high school forensics coach. Before that, I worked a little bit in middle school forensics, but really high school forensics is where my heart is.
Wow, that's awesome. I am glad that now those three people, shout out to those three people listening that know who you are now. So, as I got to talk about, this is the second episode of the podcast. If you were listening, you heard the first episode with Don Crabtree, a great member of the NSDA board and retired teacher and stuff like that. So now we have a chance to talk and be with Amy Geyser. The goal of the episodes is basically to gauge everything that's kind of going on in the community through speech and debate, and kind of take your wisdom and see kind of how it applies. I think this hopefully will be a great show for new coaches who might need some advice, and coaches that have been coaching for years that could take some of the things that you have and be able to apply that to their own coaching careers as well. Speaking of new coaches, we're going to start off with my first question. So the first question is, what advice do you have for someone who, is new to coaching, someone who just graduated high school, they're 22 years old and ready to embark into the world, and they finally got their first big boy job as a, speech and debate coach and teacher? What kind of advice do you have for them to get them started?
Ask for help. When I was a brand new coach almost 9 years ago, I truly did not know what I was doing. I kind of fell into the position from a background in professional theater. A coach in town, heard that a high school speech coach position was opening up at Marquette. And at that time, I had only worked with middle school forensics as a judge, and kind of helping out just a little bit on a volunteer basis with coaching. I really knew almost nothing. And someone who had been coaching for quite some time at that point, through every step of that first season, sharing their systems with me, how to run a team, how to set up practices, how to communicate with parents and get the volunteer help we needed. I mean, everything. And additionally, the WFCA, the Wisconsin Forensic Coaches Association, they still do have a mentor coach system, where new coaches, you don't even have to be a brand new coach, but any coach who feels like they could use some guidance can be matched up with a mentor coach in your area. And I don't know what I would have done without that little team of people holding my hand and cheering me on through that first season.
That's awesome. I am very glad that you were able to receive that help, and that was something that kind of got you to stay in the community and do as much great work as you've done. It's really awesome. It's really cool. I love this podcast just because I get to also now hear the answers from all of you, and so many of you have different answers. So it's really cool just to see like what your advices are. And I think that that's a really great piece of advice, to ask for help. We live in a generation in a world where a lot of us are sometimes afraid to ask for help, or we try to find it from resources where it might not be the most advantageous. So that's really great. And I think that hopefully to those new coaches that are listening, that is exactly what should be done. So Um, I'm going to actually add a different question. Unfortunately, I didn't get to ask this during the first episode, but this is why we continue to change and figure out what's going to work best for the podcast. So, the next question actually is student related. So, kind of the same question though. So, to that new, what is it, 11? I think they're 11 when they start ninth grade. No, they're probably a little older than that. But to those freshmen in high school that are finally starting and ready for high school forensics, what advice do you have for them? What's some great things that they can do to make the most out of those 4 years of competition?
Ask for help. I really have seen some really cool transitions and transformations of students between freshman year and senior year, and so much of it has to do with our community. Coaches have a lot of great guidance, and but there's nothing like getting guidance and assistance from a team member, an older student on the team. And we have practice for just a few hours at a time after school, but when I've seen my students get together on weekends, or they'll spend a whole afternoon together on a Saturday, and with the older students kind of mentoring the younger ones, that's when I've seen the most growth. It's really inspiring.
I agree with that. I really like that answer too, just because it's really cool to see team dynamics that have that ability to be able to work with the individuals and continue to, as students get older, they become the mentors now, and helping the younger students come up to hopefully be mentors to the next group of students, and just that continuous cycle. I like that a lot. So what was the thing that got you invested in the world of speech and debate? What was that? When was that aha moment for you where you were like, wow, this is actually what I want to dedicate my life to?
I think it was, well, like I said, I kind of fell backwards into forensics. I was so my bachelor's degree was in theater, and so I graduated in the mid 90s, and I always had a day job in theater, professional theater, and then I was picking up acting and directing work on the side, and also teaching. I did a lot of teaching for Milwaukee Rep. I would go into schools with an outreach education program they had, and then with First Stage Children's Theater here in Milwaukee. It's the largest theater academy for children, and I was one of their army of teachers. And at the time, well, it still is, Golda Meir Grade School is across the parking lot from First Stage's facility, and the coach at Golda knew that she needed to recruit judges for her 60-member middle school team. So she knew she could get those across the parking lot. There were a bunch of young people with theater degrees. So I knew so little about forensics at that point. I didn't do forensics myself in high school. My sport, well, I sort of did. I did the one-act competition, which is technically part of forensics.
Okay.
But I lived in the theater in high school. We had a forensics team at my school, but I just never really had enough time in my schedule to do that in addition to the theater. So anyway, okay. I knew so little about forensics when I started judging it. And the coach was Tyne Turner. She's a real veteran. She trained us, and I started going to forensics meets, middle school forensics meets on Fridays after school, and I was like, wow, this is a thing. Like, this is amazing. Like these young people using their voices, finding their voices and using their voices and expressing themselves. And It was such a positive thing, at this Milwaukee public school. It was just such a beautiful example of how much we can do to help students express themselves. And it's not a sport that takes a lot of equipment where you need a lot of money. It's
True.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, definitely. That was absolutely great. So that's really cool. I love hearing about how different people got into the activity. And it's just, it's so awesome. Some people get in earlier, some get in later, and it's all the same, which is great. So as someone who's been in the community for a while, I'm sure we all have our our pet peeves, our dislikes. So I do want to know, what is it right now that you like least about the speech and debate community overall?
I guess there are times when I feel like I don't fit in to the community in terms of my philosophy.
Okay.
And certainly there are other coaches that have similar philosophies. It's the competitive spirit, you say what I don't like about the community. It's kind of more like it's not the best fit.
Okay.
I love it. I love it when my team wins trophies. Don't get me wrong. That's I love bringing hardware back on the bus, back to school on Saturday afternoon. But that's not the reason I do it. We do it,
Definitely.
I'm just always asking myself, what career skills are we building by doing this activity? What life skills are we doing? And I don't know. I guess my hackles get raised by the competition. The schools that truly you can tell that they are in it to dominate the competition.
Very true. I think that's a good answer. I think what we can take away from that is that sometimes as a coach you don't feel like you fit in. I can see that. There's I know that every coach probably has had those moments where especially when you get to national levels and things of that nature, there's so many different coaches, and it's honestly just no way to truly kind of feel like you fit in with every single coach there. Everybody is so different, but that's also really great because there's so much diversity in the community, and we are all different, but we do share that same love for speech and debate, which is awesome. And then obviously we can take away, something else that our first guest, Mr. Crabtree, said was very similar to what you said. Is that it's not about winning. Trophies. Trophies are really great. They're awesome. And like I say to kids, I'm like, those gold-plated trophies 50 years from now won't matter. It's going to be about the experiences, the fun times on the school bus, the awesome times where you got to stay in the overnight tournament. And it's so much different. I've had a lot of experiences, I think, in my past with coaches and students as well, who've all been about the win. And unfortunately, I don't know if that's the right way to go, but I definitely hope that more people really start to put a mindset towards the actual experience, which is why this is called the forensics experience.
It's tough. It's tough because it is a competition. That is why
Sure.
that is why we're there. But I
agree with that. It is a competition. It is something that you should want to try to win technically, But then there's also the love for the game as well. As a person who did, sports, I played basketball in college and track and field and stuff, and it was an opportunity where, yes, I wanted to obviously come home with the NCAA trophy or whatever, but I also wanted to just get an opportunity to have a bunch of fun on the court. You know, you got to
Mm-hmm.
play around, shoot your shot, do all the things that you get to do when you participate in the sport. So there was a lot of mixed feelings with that, but the love of the game was the part that really comes first, and that's how I feel about speech and debate, and I think everyone else should too. And to segue kind of to my next question, actually, what do you like the most about the speech and debate community right now?
So I guess if I think about the this is going to sound completely contradictory to the answer I just said, but it is friendly competition. It is.
Yeah.
I like how the other teams challenge us to be our best, to do as well as we can.
True.
I certainly don't in that competitive spirit that I get from a lot of other coaches, I definitely don't get an unfriendly or arrogant vibe. I don't. I mean, I'll go to a the NSDA National Education Conference I've been to, and I'll sit around a table at lunchtime with coaches from all over the country, and it's like a who's who. A lot of times, you know, you learn how many national tournaments they've won in the last decade in the first few minutes, but it's not a but they are, at the same time, they are so incredibly open to sharing the reasons for their success. And you know, I and that's what I do. I end up asking questions. I'm forever in this world because I didn't have a forensics background in high school. I just kind of learned on the job. So that's how I learned from other coaches, and I found that other coaches are always willing to share their ideas. You know, that's where the competitive part stops. They're not, they want to win trophies, but they're more than happy to share with you the recipe for their team's success.
Very true. That's a really great answer. I love that. And what is something that you think people tend to misunderstand about forensics?
Aside from them thinking that it's like an episode of CSI, like medical.
Definitely, yeah. I would say aside from that, we know that's definitely the common misunderstanding.
I think people who do sports think that forensics, it's not competitive.
Okay.
And they're very wrong about that.
That's true. I've always seen the kind of head to head in those two worlds as a person who did forensics, theater, stuff like that, but then also did sport. It wasn't very like in those high school movies, but it was kind of a small under like the theater people thinking that jocks are just like airheaded and not smart, just play to build muscle, and then the opposite is just, you know, sports people thinking that all the theater geeks are like, they're all just, you know, dancing around and throwing up their foot and whatever, I don't know, doing all kinds of stuff. So it's very interesting worlds there.
You're a rare bird, having done, you know, having had one foot in both of those worlds in high school. You're a very unique individual.
Thank you. I don't know. I just, you know, I like to do a lot of different things. So I definitely take that as a positive. I thank you so much for being on the podcast. My last question is a little bit more of a doozy. All right, here's the scenario for the question. So,
you're making me nervous.
Not too difficult, but just very curious to kind of get everyone's answers in it. So, all right, a new school opens up. It's a high school 9 through 12, and you've just been hired as the forensics coach and teacher, full time in the day. And the principal gives you a $500 budget, and you have a team of 30 students. How are you going to run the season?
Oh my gosh. Well, and I don't have a magic wand to turn the 500 into 5,000.
No, unfortunately, no magic wands are here.
Well, I am going to host as much as possible tournaments. This is tough, Dante, because I work at a private school and where we are not allowed to do anything because there's a whole, because the school itself is a nonprofit organization with a full team of development people that work in the office, and it's their job to raise money for the school.
Oh, wow.
And because of that, individual teams and extracurriculars are not allowed to raise funds. So that I'm not sure. I mean, hosting, I do bring in income for my team. Probably a third of my budget I do raise by hosting a tournament each year. So I don't know if I'm the best person to answer that question.
Okay, no, that's I'm glad you were very honest about it. I'm always just curious to see what people say. I think you could take the question in so routes. You kind of your school specifically think of like the school any rules apply or whatever. So I'm kind of glad for your answer and just glad that you gave us a little bit of more insight into like how your school works, just to kind of know, there are probably some coaches potentially or students listening that might go to a school where they can't do a lot of fundraising either. So hopefully they'll kind of think and maybe they can host more tournaments, or, maybe they can find some other interesting creative ways to hopefully get more money into the pockets of the team and the students to travel and do more things like that. So, and then also, I'm pretty interested just because some people, would say maybe this first season is just the season where you don't go to a lot. You just, take a lax season where you can just kind of get the students ready, and hopefully you get more budgeting the next years and stuff like that. So
build community, I guess.
Yeah.
Now that you say that gets me thinking along those lines. So I feel like where I excel as a coach is in building community with my team. So so if I only had $500, we might go to a couple tournaments, just a few tournaments, but then like you're kind of getting at that, and a ton of time together as a team, learning from each other and having fun and laughing together and creating a safe environment where everybody feels supported and encouraged to kind of be the best person, not only competitor, but person that they can be. I feel really proud of the kind of the community that I have on my team.
Okay.
Because we do spend a lot of time together outside of tournaments and practices. We do lots and lots of team days where we play improv games and help, and we laugh, or we'll have movie nights, and we laugh together and we play together.
That's
a lot.
awesome.
So there's my answer.
Awesome. Well,
I would spend $500 mostly on pizza, and we would play.
So true. I am very glad that you were able to come on to the episode. Thank you so much for lending your time and giving some hopefully new students, coaches, and everyone an opportunity to hear your insights from the community. So yeah, thank you once again. And to the audience, thank you for listening. This has been the Forensics Experience. Thank you very much for listening, and give this podcast to everyone that you know, your parents, your coaches, your teachers. Give them an opportunity to learn a little bit more about forensics, and hopefully the entire world will all be forensicators very soon. Thank you for listening, and all of you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.